if am I correct with that, Jacob?
Yes, sir.
Beautiful. Okay. Remy Vanislik did reach out and said they're digging ginseng, so he might be on and off today. Thank you, Mike Burkle. I see. I know you sent through that you have a bunker inspection or something today, so you can be on just for the first little bit. But I appreciate that. So I hate rushing these things because, again, these are very important matters. But there is a Board of Health meeting here today that we're trying to get on. So I appreciate everyone's efficiencies here to rock and roll and for what we're trying to achieve here on this still very busy Tuesday. Okay, so first off, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. We are recording, so beautiful. Thank you, Jacob. Can I get an approval of the agenda or any changes to the agenda that we see?
Dusty, just these questions that are coming out of the Economic Recovery
Yes,
Committee.
perfect. Okay, let's add that into communications. Beautiful. Jacob, if you can, I'm writing it down, but if you can remind me as well that Trish would like to speak during communications, item E, for the Economic Recovery Task Force questionnaire.
No problem.
Also, at the last meeting, Jason Burgess had said that he wanted a clear answer on whether or not we were supportive of the county doing a hotel program if either the feds or province didn't step up. Just want to make sure that we're going to address that. I don't know whether you did after the meeting or not.
Hayden has crafted a very nice motion that we're going to put out today, so that we're going to send that through.
And the other thing that came up in that last meeting was Mayor Chop suggesting that we go with some solutions rather than just waiting. So, I think that does tie into some of the questions that NSERT's asking as well, and getting a little more in depth so that we can draft good solutions, know where we're at.
Absolutely. Yep. Any other points for additions to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, can I get a mover and approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Trish. Okay, and then disclosure, pecuniary interest. Anybody have anything they can't be here for because of a conflict? Okay, good deal. Moving on to presentations. I see both Chris Garwood and Zvi on right now. I don't know if there's anything that you two have to add coming down from the county at this time. Sorry to put you on the spot.
I think it would all have to do with the insert, and it's going to be addressed, Dusty.
Okay. Good deal. Okay. On that, can I get an approval of the meeting minutes from our October 8th, 2020 meeting?
Hayden's got his hand up.
Thank you, Hayden. Perfect.
I'll second that.
Thank you kindly. Okay. There we go. All right. So moving on to item 6, communications. So economic impact analysis. Mr. Hayden, if I can put you on the floor, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted that as an item last week to talk about it briefly. So the Ontario Apple Growers has sent one out to all of their members in order to start gathering some feedback to use in their discussions with government locally. I mean, if we look at what's going on, I think Trish and Chris Garwood are going to be able to provide some more information on this. But we have additional costs here due to COVID and due to regulations that are being put in place by the health unit. And I think it would be really interesting to do something similar here in order to gather feedback from the agricultural industry so that we can provide that in some sort of consolidated format back to the Board of Health. Trish or Chris maybe have some more feedback on that matter, Dusty, because I think there's some work through the maybe Trish, it's probably easier for you to explain at this point where you guys are at with the Economic Impact Advisory Committee.
Okay, so for those of you that don't know, Norfolk has formed Economic Recovery Committee, of which I'm one of the members. So it has members on it that support several different industries, agriculture being one of them, and both myself and Carl Atkinson are on there. Carl's with the Ginseng Board, are on there to represent ag, but there's also tourism and retail and manufacturing, etc. So what we want to do is go to the community and all the different committees and Bank of Commerce or Board of, totally lost the name, but the BIA, right? And get some feedback from county members in terms of what the county can do to help with the recovery process. So we came up with 4 general questions that go to all industries. One being, what specific action or project or projects can the county undertake to lessen the greatest obstacles facing your industry right now? If the pandemic were to continue for another 1 to 2 years, what specific actions or projects could the county undertake to help businesses in your industry with the challenges associated with an extended pandemic? And 3, can you suggest any quick win initiatives to support businesses in Norfolk? And 4, please describe your business's primary industry. So obviously we're going to look at it from an ag perspective, but I don't think that negates giving any suggestions that we might have for Norfolk County as a whole. So that's what we started with, because so I thought that was what they could handle at the county level to go through the response. I had some concerns with that, just that I know we were already talking at this level that we needed to have a better understanding of the impact on the farmers here, not just for the county's actions, but also the province and the feds as well, because we are in a bit of a unique situation. So I don't think we can just rely on what OF and VGA are doing or the Apple board. So I put together some suggestions of some other questions that are a little bit more specific to ag. And I was also thinking about Mayor Chop's suggestion at the last meeting that we come up with some solutions or a plan rather than waiting for something to be given to us. And I thought that information could really help with that. So the issue, I guess, is Z wasn't sure whether they had the county staff to be able to take that information and do something with it. And I guess asking for volunteers. So I just don't know whether we have enough volunteer capacity to do that, because obviously we all have day jobs. Do you want to say more about that, Zvi?
Sure. So Tricia, I just want to confirm resources for some of the additional questions. Is that, or some of the additional proposals? Is that what you're asking?
Well, I'm asking if we put a survey together with these more detailed questions on ag, do we have some help from the county's level to take all those responses and consolidate them? I know Hayden did that for that, quick little email we did with the farmers there, and I'm quite sure it took you quite a bit of time, didn't it, Hayden?
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So I think maybe you had discussed this with Brandon, but I think the response was—
Okay, sorry, I thought it was you.
Sure. And I think the response was that this is an initial consultation that the Recovery Task Force wanted to engage in to see what we could do right away. So what can we undertake and start right away? That doesn't negate the fact that we do want to go out with a more detailed, more comprehensive, and certainly a broader consultation. This consultation kind of is limited to the boards, the advisory boards, and the partners, the BIA, the chambers, et cetera. So yes, I do think that we would certainly be interested in some of those more detailed questions and going out for an extended consultation and engagement process. It's just that I don't think that we want to fit it in right now because we would like to get some initiatives going right away. And so that's why we kind of asked the general questions. What can we do that would have instant impact? Maybe what have you seen elsewhere? And then we'll go out with a broader consultation. So the answer is yes, but we're looking at early in the new year.
Yeah, the issue is that with agriculture, that's too late. Then you're already looking at the 2022 season. It won't fix the problem for 2021 because they're already putting applications in for workers for next year. And both the provincial and federal governments are looking at the changes to the program right now for next year. So
are there suggestions?
It's beyond the 8 ball, right? Like it won't help.
Mm-hmm. Are there suggestions that can come from this board directly that we can fit into the task force's bucket of suggestions that will come from all these various sources? Are there suggestions that can come from the Ag Advisory Board that we can put into that? The timing is more doing the broader consultation. If we do go out with a broader consultation, it's less about the resources and more about the timing. So that might take a month and a half. So it just extends how long before we can get going, basically.
Right.
So if there are suggestions or projects or initiatives that can come from Ag Advisory, kind of on behalf of the broader ag community, we would love to get those. And that's the purpose of today. And if the questions that we've asked don't exactly fit into that, that's fine. Just throw other suggestions into that.
Yeah, I think we can do that. Not a problem. I guess my concern is just waiting on the other ones till the new year. Maybe we can do these in 2 different streams. So we're starting with the ones that you had intended with, and then we're also starting to ask the questions of the ag community as well.
Right.
And give them a little bit of time to answer it, but then we have the responses.
Yeah, we could certainly look at that.
Okay.
Take it back to the task force, but I don't think that is hugely problematic for us.
Okay.
Hayden, I see your hand up.
You're on mute.
Sorry, I look at the economic impact assessment there that's being done by industries at the moment, and I go, hey, you're sitting on this economic recovery committee. What a fantastic resource for the individuals sitting around the table to view. And I look at it not necessarily as the broader agricultural consultation. I look at it as part of the information they're providing in order to help steer that committee. So I still think it would be a great resource at this time as well to give some steering capability and to be able to share those economic impacts with local government and taking that further. Some people sit on boards beyond local government, taking it beyond that and saying, hey, here's locally what people's concerns are that they're looking to address. I think it helps steer the questions. I guess is where I'm heading with it. It helps you with the onset establishing what direction that we need to go in, or what direction you think agriculture needs to go in.
Okay.
So just to address that, I think that's certainly again a suggestion that we can bring forward to the task force. But if we do that, I'm hearing that we would want to do the economic impact analysis and then go out with questions. So again, would the timing fit with what Trish was saying, that by the new year it might be too late. But let's have that discussion, and anything's possible. So I've captured that as a suggestion to perform one of those, and we'll bring it back to the NSERT task force.
Okay, so do we want to deal with those initial 4 questions now to see whether we have some thoughts as an ag advisory board?
I think so. I think the 4 questions are concise, and is anyone opposed to that?
I know you've got some stuff to fit in here, Hayden, so time-wise, do you want to do that first, or you want to talk about these? I've just posted the 4 questions there so people can see them on their screen in the chat.
Yeah, just wondering through you, Mr. Chair, if we could maybe hold this off as something we can do afterwards via email or at the end of the meeting, just in case I know there's some time sensitivity to some of the individuals' participation in the meeting today.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you get your motions in, right? So.
Yeah. If this is something that the board members are willing to take on, Trish has stated that Friday, October 13th is they would like to have these 4 questions responded by. So let's have our word, have your opportunity here so that I can get in for the next insert meeting, as well as please send. Now, Trish, is it okay if some members send it out to other agricultural stakeholders, like other farmers and whatnot, or do you want to keep? Okay. So yeah, please, members, send it out. Now, do we want to be so bold as to go through the same thing like we did for the health unit questions from farmers and send it out through Chris Garwood sources, or is that too big?
I think that's too big. I think that's more they wanted to deal with right now, but I think maybe want to do that when we get to the survey, put an actual survey together, and have people respond that way. Okay. I just don't know the logistics of getting that done. For sure. So if everyone can please take it, have this opportunity to get these in to Trish by the 30th, or return to Chris Garwood at norfolkcounty.ca. That would be fantastic. Okay, sounds good. Anything else on that item A? Okay. So moving on to cost coverage, Mr. Hayden.
Yeah, so I think we got to the point here now with this Section 22 order, where we understand that it's in place. We've been told that the medical officer of health has the ability to be able to impose that, and that we're not gonna have a change for next season. So I think the next point of discussion needs to be who's paying for that. So just getting in line with I guess having everybody understand what the economic impact of that Section 22 order is just maybe communicating upwards to the Board of Health a request for them to provide funding for those rules that are provided that are local rules and outside of what the province and the feds are asking us to do. So I've put a couple of motions there on the side of your screen there in the messages, but I'm going to read it out aloud if you can't follow it through there. So in regards to the Section 22 order, whereas the medical officer of health for Haldeman Norfolk has a Section 22 order on migrant farm workers that only 3 people per bunkhouse are permitted to quarantine together, and whereas this rule is specific only to Haldeman Norfolk Health Unit, and whereas hotels and short-term accommodation was available for the use in 2020 for quarantine, and this may not be the case in 2021, as short-term accommodations are once again available for Ontarians due to restrictions being lifted, and whereas this adds significant costs and logistical challenges to farmers in Haldeman Norfolk, that the Ag Advisory Board asked the Board of Health to recognize the additional cost imposed on farmers in Haldeman and Norfolk, and further that the Board of Health provide funding to ensure farmers in Haldeman Norfolk are not put at an economic disadvantage from additional quarantine costs incurred from Haldeman and Norfolk specific quarantine rules. So just going back to that, Dusty basically ahead of this meeting has asked for a deputation for tonight to be able to go and talk to some of these points as well, and then the motion obviously in the meeting that we're going to pass in this meeting would be part of the discussion points for this evening's Board of Health meeting. So basically that's a request there in order for, hey, if we're going to have different rules applied to the agricultural community, that there's a cost coverage, that there's some help coming our way for that. That's the base motion. I have no problem changing with any changes or adaptations to that anybody else is looking at.
Any discussion on that?
Hi, Dusty. Just a question I have.
Yes, sir.
So with this motion, has it addressed the question that that Jason had pertaining to whether you guys would be interested in the hotel accommodation? Are you saying we're not interested in the hotel accommodation? What we're interested in is funding to offset the cost, the increased cost to farmers?
No, for sure. So there is a second motion in the meeting chat that we also address the hotel or motel program.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
okay.
So we're going to be focusing on three categories.
Right.
This is one of them, and then the hotel is addressed in a second motion that we're going to be tabling.
Okay. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, my concern is it's great for funding, but is it even possible? Like, is funding going to fix the problem? So I guess if the new funding that's been announced doesn't include new builds, and we're asking for this to include that, I mean, that's one way. I think we need more to it, and maybe the hotel motion will capture that, but I don't know that just giving them cash to figure it out is going to fully help them to be able to get out of the situation, because I think a lot of people just don't know what to do.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, this isn't just about giving out cash. There's an additional cost there to the 3-person per bunkhouse requirement that none of our neighboring communities have imposed on them. And I think there needs to be some recognition for that. And if we're sitting here today saying that Norfolk and Haldeman farmers should be at an economic disadvantage to the neighbors, then I would agree with the comment there. But this is about, we are at an economic disadvantage, and we don't think that's fair, and there needs to be some recognition on that. We haven't had the ability through all of our efforts to change the Section 22 order. We haven't had the ability to be able to meet with Dr. Nasathari in any of our meetings, and it's more so just the fact that, hey, we're told that this is what is imposed, and it's not going to change. So, hey, could you whether that's locally funded or whether that's provincially or federally funded, there needs to be some help for the difference in requirements for us versus our neighbors.
Any other discussion points on that? And I think that's it, is that where does it fall with, yes, I can understand it in one instance, it is asking for cash. In the other essence is what is that cash going to also, is it going to be put gas in my fuel tank, or is it actually going to be, are we asking for specific to help with the programs? Can we have any greater discussion on this?
Yeah, this could also be saying that there's recognition that there's an economic disadvantage, and maybe we could change the policy too.
Right.
If I may add here for a minute, so we have 25 guys coming in this week, like temporary foreign workers, so not seasonal agricultural workers for 2 years. So I'm actually proposing to the health unit that we isolate, to modify their isolation, because I've heard that there's been support from the Canadian government for other farmers to get around the 14-day quarantine. So I'm proposing that we isolate the guys for till day 2, and then we test them, and upon completion of a negative test that they go to work. I've been told that I need to get approval basically from the health unit first, and then I have to go to the government with my plan of action. I'm not sure if this is a feasible plan that we might be able to propose to the health unit to maybe cut down on the isolation by I don't know, 5 to 10 days.
There is a study going on in Alberta, I believe, right now with travel, where people coming in are being tested, and then they're tested again in 5 days. But yeah, I think the only quarantine, maybe you mirrored that program or that pilot that they're doing, Mike, but I think they're only in isolation for 2 days and then they're tested again after 5. But there are some restrictions during that extra 5 days of what they need to do, like masks in public everywhere and whatnot.
Correct. And we're proposing that they don't go to town for the 14 days. Basically, they're only going to go to work, but at least this will allow us to kind of minimize the costs, right? So,
yeah, good idea.
Does anyone know, like Mike, I guess if you're looking into it, so you might know, I last week or early this week, no, it must have been last week, about the rapid testing at airports that's happening. Is this anything that could be, I'm sure it's not going to happen tomorrow, but is that something that's coming down the pipeline?
From what I understand, yes, and there's specific exemptions now for people coming in. If they're to perform work on machinery and such, they don't have to isolate anymore. There's specific exemptions regarding that from the Canadian government. One thing I've heard about the temporary foreign workers is they often don't want you to get tested until day 2 because there's that fear of they might have caught it on the airplane and they don't necessarily know exactly when you're going to start to show symptoms, right? Which is why they want to delay the testing for a day or 2. Yeah, so that's why I proposed it that we start on day 2 to kind of compensate for that. But I don't know a whole lot about the rapid testing yet at this point. So, but I do know that there are a lot of exemptions being given to people coming in from overseas at this time. And have actually, I've talked to numerous lawyers that have like almost 100% positive case of getting these people into the country without having to isolate. So
the rapid testing at the airport, that's what I was referring to, Dusty. That's what they're doing in Alberta.
Okay.
It's not a pilot program, and it's very similar to what Mike's just described from the article I read.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay, so sticking with this this motion that's on the board for the first motion, any of the discussion points about looking, because of economic disadvantages, that the board is, looking for recognition that there is additional cost imposed.
Dusty, I'm just wondering if we could go through the 3 motions then, and then go back to them.
Okay.
Because it's something that Chris had already asked about, and you said, well, that's coming up next. But if we could review all of it and then go back to the first one so that we can have a big, like a broader scope of what's being proposed.
Yep, sounds good. Hayden, do you want to read out the motel program?
Yeah, I got it right here. So this was for the response to Mr. Burgess's request on whether the Ag Advisory Board would support a hotel program. So again, draft, don't be afraid to make changes or suggestions to it. So whereas the Ag Advisory Board has been asked through the Norfolk County CAO to comment on their position as it relates to Norfolk and Haldeman run quarantine program for 2021. Whereas the agricultural enterprises and their partners at the health unit have a greater understanding of operating in a COVID world. And whereas the Agricultural Advisory Board fully endorses a consistent approach with all services and policy creation that address proactively unintentional consequences of inequity for agricultural operations. And whereas agricultural operations come in all shapes and sizes, and whereas there needs to be an option available that meet the need of the broader agricultural community to help them deal with the impacts to staffing in their operations due to COVID-19, that in the absence of a province-wide quarantine program, the Agricultural Advisory Board asked the Board of Health to define in writing what services would be provided for a Norfolk and Haldeman run program, and further that the Board of Health define what the cost would be to participate in a Norfolk and Haldeman-run quarantine program, and further that the Board of Health make the details of the program available for consideration of all Haldeman and Norfolk agricultural operations as soon as possible ahead of the 2021 season to allow for confirmed participation in the 2021 season.
There we go. All right, thank you, Hayden. And
So are we
the
saying,
Jacob,
I'm a bit lost here. Are we saying that we just want them to tell us about the program and confirm the details? Or are we saying that we're in support of the program if there isn't a provincial one?
Yeah, that in the absence of a province-wide quarantine program, the Ag Advisory Board asked the Board of Health to define in writing what services would be provided, and that the Board of Health make the details of that program available for consideration of all Haldeman and Norfolk agricultural operations as soon as possible ahead of the 2021 season to allow for confirmed participation. So I guess what it's saying is, hey, I think it's a great idea, but let's define the details of what it looks like, and then let's get it out to people. And I think everybody should have an opportunity to be able to participate in a Haldeman and Norfolk run quarantine program if that's right for their operation.
Okay, so I just didn't say that I didn't see it written anywhere that we said we're in approval of it, but maybe we need to add that part there that we would like to see the details, but we're in approval of a program being put together if there isn't one that happens provincially or federally. And actually, I think they need to kind of get working on this regardless, because we don't know if there's a federal provincial one coming out, how late in the game that's going to happen. And I know I've spoke to some asparagus growers that, you know, they already need to order or put their applications in for their guys. And it's that isolation period that's hanging them up and they don't know what to do. So at least if they know there's going to be something as a fallback, they can proceed with that.
so Hayden, were you going to
change it in here so that that in the absence of a province-wide quarantine program, that the Ag Advisory Board fully supports a Haldeman and Norfolk run quarantine program, and asks that the Board of Health define in writing what services would be provided for a Norfolk and Haldeman run program.
Yeah, I think that's good.
So this is a big one. So members of the Ag Advisory Board, any comment or questions on the hotel/motel plan?
So Hayden, just to clarify then, the second motion then would be regarding a Haldeman Norfolk program, and the first motion or suggestion would be that Haldeman Norfolk or the Board of Health, the health unit, compensate farmers for that locally run program, as well as the additional costs for people not using the program and making their own arrangements?
Yeah, correct. So if we're going to make local programs that put us at an economic disadvantage, the request is, can we get some help for that, for paying for it? I think that's we've tried the approach that the local programs that are outside of what federal and provincial requirements aren't working for us. So we continue to be mandated with them. If they're going to continue to be mandated, then can we receive some compensation and help with participating in the local run programs?
Anything else?
So just a question here. Last year, I think the government provided $1,500 per employee to assist the farmers.
We haven't seen a single dollar of that, Mr. Garwood.
So it was just an announcement then?
Yes, it was hot air.
Okay,
and
so
then through you, Mr. Chair, also Chris, on the $1,500 thing. That was something that everybody in agriculture received across the province.
Right. So so if the additional cost to you, let's say it's 1,500, and you get 1,500 from the government, whether or not other people got it, how then would you frame or justify additional funding? Because what we're looking at is not necessarily that other people got it, so you got it. What you're looking at is your additional cost over and above what it was costing you before, right?
Yes. So everybody got the $1,500 for the quarantine, but not everybody had to quarantine with 3 people in a bunkhouse and the Section 22 order that we had in place in Norfolk and Holdeman. And the Section 22 order is still adding cost to our operations.
Gotcha.
Okay, so beyond the $1,500 worth of funding that we potentially are going to get, we've got the commitment from the government. We haven't seen any dollars from it, but from that $1,500, we put that into all the other things that we have to look after, the 14-day quarantine period where we have to pay the employees. We have all these costs that add up to the $1,500. Additionally, we also have the Section 22 order and the requirements of 3 people per bunkhouse that adds cost beyond what other agricultural enterprises within Ontario are facing.
Gotcha.
Mike Backus has his hand up there, Dusty.
Good deal. I can't see that, so thank you kindly. Mr. Backus.
You're on mute, Mike.
Hey there, can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm just curious if anyone has heard anything from the government, if they're going to continue that program for going into next season or next year, or is this kind of a one-shot thing?
The $1,500 program?
Yeah.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Dusty, but I think it was extended into November. And then like a lot of the other subsidy programs that have been in place from the government, they kind of look at it on a periodic basis and they're doing extensions. So there's really no one's if going into next season we're going to receive the same, or if the onus for those costs are going to be put back onto agricultural operations again.
Yeah, I haven't heard on the fortunate to sit on a bunkhouse task force through OMAFRA, and the word funding or 2021 funding has not been voiced at this time. I'm going to defer to Trish on this one, who's also well connected.
Trish went for coffee, I think.
Okay, that's all right. No, yeah, I at this time, Mike, I haven't heard of any funding yet or funding plans for 2021. That's a good follow-up to ask above and beyond, because yeah, that money matters for sure.
But Hayden, I appreciate you mentioning, or whether it was Dusty, but I think it was you, Hayden, mentioning that the workers need to be paid while they're during that going through that isolation period. So it's really important because Chris didn't know that, and so when it comes to communicating, people need to know that we have many additional costs, and number one is that they need to be paid while they're in that isolation period. So that $1,500 isn't for that hotel room or whatever. There's so many additional things, and this is why we're at the disadvantage when we might have to put workers up in hotel rooms because we can no longer, because we're restricted with that Section 22.
Exactly, and the men and women come here with very little resources and very little money. So there's also the additional grocery setup. There's the additional that they the money that they receive through their weekly pays that are required and mandated. I mean that there's also additional costs of just getting them to start off for the year that farmers incur cost-wise. So yeah, those are huge. That $1,500 gets chewed up very quickly, above and beyond Norfolk County's plan. Hayden and anyone else, any other comments? That's a great comment, Anita. Thank you. No, for sure. And I think in communicating these, because we take these comments for granted and understandings for granted. because obviously we live it every day. And so having this information included is huge for understanding for those who aren't in it every day. Okay, Hayden.
Yeah, no. So if everybody's in support of those two motions there, I'd like to get a motion to approve them, Mr. Chair, barring any changes.
I do have my third one, or do we want to focus on yours right now, and then we'll go to my third one?
No, go ahead, Dusty.
Okay. So a quick 1 minute synopsis as to what is happening in the rationale behind this motion is regarding user fees. On the Board of Health meeting that is today at 1 p.m. There is a line item that has been inserted directly addressing bunkhouse inspections as because of the amount of personnel that have now been added to and allocated to bunkhouse inspections and whatnot. That they're looking to increase the user fee per inspection. The rate right now is $101 per operation, regardless of the size. And what we're looking for, from an ag community, first and foremost, is broader discussion as to what a number before that number is set. Because setting a number without discussion and maybe broader understanding of the agricultural industry and also the broader other industries in Norfolk County included above and beyond agriculture. I think that this information needs to be understood before setting a number just for the sake of collecting more money. When we're in a county that is going above and beyond with protocols and procedures above and beyond the Province Act we are all aware of. So as it stands right now, and I will type this out into the taskbar as well, but whereas agriculture enterprises are required to have an 8-month to annual bunkhouse inspection at a cost of $101, whereas agriculture enterprises are the only industry who pays for this style of business inspection, that there be a broader consultation among agricultural stakeholders and broader industries to create an equitable system for user fee changes, that the Ag Advisory Board asked the Board of Health to defer the fee increase to budget deliberations, and that the Ag Advisory Board request a fee that is equitable among all size of operations, including all who require these styles of inspections. So what we're trying to do is that it's also understanding that we're not trying to pit at any point agriculture versus restaurants versus other industries that require an inspection. But right now, agriculture is the only one who pays for this style of an inspection. So before we have a pointed increase in fee, what are we going to see in an value added sort of position? As are we going to see greater response time? Are we going to see what does that increase in fee look like? Or is it strictly, hey, we're going to get more, we would like to get more money out of the agriculture producers? So does anyone have any questions on this one? And I can't see hands for some reason, so I'm going to look to Hayden and Trish, who have that ability.
Trish is talking.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm just asking, so, because I don't know this, but are agriculture the only ones that have to pay for inspection? Like restaurants or businesses don't need to?
That's correct. That's our understanding.
Okay.
So just to confirm that, Trish, when I have my commercial inspection, that doesn't cost me anything. They do an inspection very similar. They're doing water sampling as well as looking through all aspects of our commercial kitchen and things like that. Yesterday I had my bunkhouse inspection, and that's where I need to write the check.
Okay. I would just think that it might be a good idea to look at fees for everyone first before increasing the fee on the only people that have been paying it.
Exactly. And that's the in the Jacob, are you able to, I know I'm going to put you on the spot right here, the Board of Health agenda, are you able to quickly send that out to the members in the email thread? You can find on page 13 the point that it's a blank point directed that they'll be discussing today, a percentage increase on it, and it was going to be decided today. But like Tricia's point and confirmed by Anita, that before we increase the user group that has always been paying it for a similar service that other industries are getting for relatively free, or for free, I should say, or at no cost, we would hopefully look to a model that puts, again, all industries now on the same level playing field, versus farmer in one neighboring community versus the other. And so that's really the that's what we really want to look at before we just start adding. Any other discussion on this motion? And then we'll go through the vote for number 1, 2, and 3.
Just to kind of understand all three motions, if I were to put them in my own words, motion 1 is saying, because of additional costs, we're looking for offset for those costs that are over and above what we would have, and it's all because of these requirements. For number 2, you're saying if the county is gonna run some kind of a hotel program, the question is, are you in favor of the hotel program? And what you're saying is, show us what the program is, because we can't decide if we're in favor of the hotel program without seeing details of the program. And then your third motion is, in terms of user fees, you're looking for equitable and for it to be equitable and for them to review implementing these fees. Kind of in my own words, in a nutshell, that's what we're saying, right?
Well, the third one, well, okay, the first one, actually, you know what? Hayden, can you speak to your motions? Because I do not want to speak on behalf of you.
Yeah, I think you summed them up pretty well, Chris. The first motion, obviously, additional cost here for additional local regulation that other farmers in Ontario aren't having to pay for. If we want local regulation, let's put local contributions towards us achieving those as farmers. Number 2, we've been asked about the housing. Yes, we support it, but we don't think that it's fair for the Ag Advisory Board to say the broader agricultural industry supports it. We're in support of it, and we think that program should be made available for people in the agricultural industry that wish to participate in it. And then I think number 3 there, you pretty much got the nail on the head there. That's us sitting there looking at it and just saying, hey, Dusty, I don't want to speak to your motion here.
No, that's okay. Yeah, it's effectively, it's the fact that, yes, at the end of the day, we're looking for it to be equitable or equitable. And secondly, before we see an increase, a further increase, we'd like the opportunity for this amount of money that they're looking to increase and recoup from the farming community to be almost accepted and be paid for all across the board before raising further the cost of a certain industry. That I'm not saying that restaurants aren't being hit as hard as farms or whatnot. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is that that's already subject to specific Section 22 orders upon us.
Thanks.
Okay. Mike? Okay. All right. Any other comments on that before we go through voting on motions?
No, I just think in regards to your motion, it's good that we acknowledge there that agriculture comes in different shapes and sizes. And I think there's a good understanding within the group that the whole equitable approach within different scales of operations needs to be assessed before we just blanket increase a fee there too. So I think you've captured that in your motion too, Dusty.
Okay, thank you kindly. Okay, so if we could now with so honestly, thank you, Hayden, for putting these motions forward. Thank you, Chris, for taking the time and also understanding what the root cause of the motions are. Number 3, is there a cat in one of the person's microphones?
Or a bird.
Or a bird, yeah. Thank you kindly. So yeah, and thank you, Chris. From your standpoint, thank you for taking the that extra minute and extra time for understanding where the motivations are coming from and the base root of these motions. So starting with number 1, regarding looking for understanding that the additional significant costs and that the Board of Health provide funding to our agricultural stakeholders that are put in at a disadvantage between our Norfolk County and others. Are we in favor of this motion? Can I get a mover?
Yes, so I believe I moved the motion.
Oh, you moved it, so can I get a second?
We're looking for a seconder, correct?
Yes.
I'll second that. Anita.
Okay. Thank you, Anita. Okay. Hayden, you're also the mover of the motel program. Can we get a seconder for I want to make sure that this is clear, especially for everyone watching on YouTube and whatnot, is that what we're looking for from an agriculture advisory board is that in the absence of a province-wide quarantine program, the Ag Advisory Board asked the Board of Health to define in writing what services would be provided for a Norfolk Haldeman Run program, and they would also define what the cost would be to participate in this program. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think we added something in there as well, Dusty, from the copy that you're reading. So okay. In the absence of a province-wide program that the Agricultural Advisory Board fully supports a Haldeman and Norfolk Run quarantine program and asks that the Board of Health define in writing what services would be provided for a Norfolk and Haldeman Run program.
So before the Board of Health or the health unit goes and asks, look for $1 million or whatever to set up a task force and whatnot, before we can officially say we are in agreement, first and foremost, we want to see what the outline of their idea of a hotel program is. Is that correct? Or we like the idea of a hotel plan, but first we want to see what your idea of a hotel program is.
I think we're saying we're supportive of a program, but we want to make sure that it's got the things in there that need to be there for it to be successful for those workers.
Right. Okay.
Right. Like I know that there was some, just as a quick example, some people that did use hotels or other services, and they were still running around buying food and things for their workers because the food that was being supplied was not food that their workers would eat. Right. So
correct.
You can't feed them pasta because they won't eat pasta if they're from Mexico. It's going to have to be Caribbean food or whatnot. Right.
Right. Exactly. And because I think at the end of the day, these are also people that are being put inside of hotels for 14 days, and that's lonely. And on the farm or wherever, we can provide them those unique ethnic accommodations that also should be able to be provided by someone to the hotel plan. Okay, thank you. Can I get a seconder for this motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you kindly. Okay, and then for the third motion, I was the mover of that. This is looking for the Board of Health to defer the fee increase that was to be set today. Looking to the budget deliberation talks. We're also looking for broader representation and consultation among agricultural stakeholders and other industries to create an equitable system for user fee changes amongst those industries, as well as addressing an equitable system amongst agriculture themselves. Can I get a seconder for this motion?
Yeah, I'll second that.
I'll second it.
Okay. Thank you kindly. I'm not sure.
I think
you had
Mike had a stand up there
And
first.
Mike and Anne.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. This is great. I'm excited. Okay. Any other before we move on? Any other conversations or discussions about those three motions, or any? I guess we can't make any amendments because they've been now moved. But any other discussion?
Dusty, sorry, Anita, just one more thing here, Dusty. You're going to do a deputation tonight on behalf of the Ag Advisory Board to talk specifically to some of these motions. I wonder if I could just put a quick motion on the floor here that the Ag Advisory supports that direction, and ask Dusty to attend the Board of Health meeting tonight to further provide any questions or answers to the Board of Health and talk to the specific motions from today.
If we can get a seconder for that, because I'm the one doing it, so I don't want to second that.
I'll second it, Anita.
Thank you, Anita.
Thank you. And then I cut you off there, Anita, sorry.
Yeah, just wondering if we're going to be voting on these. To go tonight and say the Ag Advisory Board supports this. We've had movers and seconders on 3 different motions, actually 4 different motions now. And we haven't had a way of voting. So Jacob, what is your preferred way of recording a vote here? Just the nays, or do we raise our hand, or how would you like to see confirmation on our support?
As long as it passes, I just put that it's been carried.
Okay, so Dusty, I'm throwing it back to you. How would you like to see that official support?
Yeah, so again, so during these, I'll just state this formally. Thank you, Anita. That do we have any nays or those against? I will go through the motions. The motion 1. Are there any against this motion? I will treat your silence as an approval. Okay. Seeing none, for motion 2, are there any against the motel program stance? Seeing none, the number 3 motion regarding the user fee, effectively asking for the user fee discussion to be deferred to budget deliberations. Seeing none, can I say that they are moved?
I think you can say that they are approved.
Approved. Okay.
Unanimously. Good.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Anita. You're my you're my double check. I appreciate that. Even after 4 years, I'm still rusty at this, so thank you. Wow, it's been a long. It's been 4 years. Holy crap. Okay. Anyways, okay. So now, if I could move on to item C, committee applications, Mr. Garwood.
Okay, so we received 11 applications in total, because the applications that we receive are for all the different committees, and then you will have one individual that lists a number of different committees that they are interested in. When I reviewed them, we did not have any for Agricultural Advisory Board. That was the number 1 choice. So I'm going to have to drill through all of them to see, and some of them were kind of vague. I'm interested in this committee and any other. So when I go through each and every one of them in a bit more detail, I will figure out if there were any that were specifically looking at agriculture. The bulk of them were for tourism and economic development. And because it's just one form for all the committees, you kind of have to search through all of them. But I can tell you that if we do have any applications for agriculture, it would probably be very little. I don't know if unless Jacob had some other ones, or we're sending the agricultural ones to a different email. Jacob, did you send me all of the applications? Because I got 11 in total for all the committees.
That is correct.
Okay.
The ones that you're the staff liaison for, of course.
Okay.
Hayden, I see
So
your hand up.
and so I have to ask Jacob. Jacob, if we go through and we did not have any specific to agriculture, what would be our next step?
I think there were a couple that did have the Ag Advisory Board on them. The next step, I guess, would be we could do some communication through our county channels, and we could also make sure that we put the AAB positions on the ad that goes out in the early in the new year. I believe it's this spring, but it might be early spring.
Okay, so when I reported to TDAB last night, I had reviewed them thoroughly. And so Jacob, you and I will have to go through them because I'm struggling to find any for Agricultural Advisory Board. Okay?
Sounds good.
And then we can report back to the group at our next meeting. Anyway, the next step would be for us to send a report to council with the names of the people who put themselves forward, and council would then select members for the board, and then we would move forward with that.
Okay. I see Hayden and Anita's hands up.
Go ahead, Hayden. Your hand was up first.
Might have been from
Sorry,
before.
just had it on mute. Through you, Dusty, Chris. Chris, just wondering, are you still open to receiving applications for the Ag Advisory Board?
I think the closing date was last Friday, or the Friday before, right? Right, Jacob?
That's correct. However, it is board discretion and staff discretion as well. So if we were to get somebody late, theoretically, as long as the group is willing to accept the application, they could still do that as well. It is your board, right?
Okay,
The reason that I've said that is I know people that might be interested, and maybe they just it didn't get in front of them, or they have expressed interest in the past. Maybe it didn't get in front of them, and maybe what we could do is further reach out as an Ag Advisory Board and say, hey, here's an opportunity to any individual that we thought might be interested in it.
Awesome suggestion.
Okay. Yeah, if we can embrace that discretionary period, that would be great.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
That would make it much easier for all of us.
Yeah, for sure.
So Chris, just a question to you. We're taking applications for additional board members because we're short board members, or because the terms are expiring. Do we have like it's a 4-year term, so do we, I believe. So I think I'm still on for a couple of more years, but do we have half of the board that are almost ready to expire and the other half that are still have a couple of years? And so just wondering why we're desperate to find additional board members, or is it because of lack of participation of the current board members? So just if you could update us.
So it's standard. So what happens is that we try to stagger when new members come on board. So at all times, you'll have a few members that would have been there for at least 2 years. If we were to put all the members changing at the same time, then you'd have a brand new board with no kind of history. So what we've done is we've staggered it, so half will come up for renewal during the term of council, and the other half would come up in the middle of the term to have some kind of continuity. And it's not just for Agricultural Advisory Board, all of them, like TDAB and all of them, we send out the applications at the exact same time for all of them, and we treat all of the different boards the same way. So we will, from time to time, have people resigning and so on, and have difficulties for quorum. So we send out those applications. Is it twice a year, Jacob?
That's correct. Once in the fall and once in the spring.
Right, and that helps to keep the advisory boards fully functional, and with new people coming on, if we have resignations and so on. So it's not anything in particular for your group or that you're not doing. It's just to ensure that they function properly.
Thanks, Chris, for that explanation. That makes a lot of sense, and I know boards do this all the time. Have you, for the people whose positions are on the board are expiring, have you notified them, and have you asked them if they're interested in submitting again?
Yeah, so that would happen in January, I think, because that's when everything happens. So notices would go out for sure to let you know the people who are coming up for renewal and whether or not they're still interested in continuing and so on. I think clerks takes care of that, and I think that happens at the end of the year for the start of the new year.
And so they would be able to submit, even though it's past the deadline, they would be able to submit at the time of their expiration of their term.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Any other questions?
How many, is it an even split, Chris? Is it 50% of our current members are, I don't want to use the word expiring. Are their terms ending December 31st, 2020? Is it 50%? What is our turnover?
Not 100% sure. Jacob, you from clerks would have that, but I think it's usually about half and half. I think
I'll double check right now,
aim.
Dusty.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, just so we know what we're working with. And then the second part is, if these 11 people and they do not want to be in agriculture, they want to be on TDAB or the economic or the doesn't matter. What is the protocol for another term? Because I believe it's my understanding that, is there any term limits that currently exist for members, being that you have to take off 4 years before returning or looking to return after 4 years? Or is there any term limits like that that we should be looking at if nobody comes over to the table here?
Do you have an answer for that, Jacob? Because I'm not sure. I know that we operate with a bit of flexibility.
I'm pretty sure there's no limit.
Yeah, I'm almost sure there's no
I've
limit.
been here since they started.
I'm quite sure that the bylaws do not have anything.
So
Exactly, because even if there were limits, I can tell you for sure that we wouldn't be following them, because we have committees with people who are serving for years.
Good. I want to make sure of that. Okay, perfect. Thank you kindly. Okay, good.
And Mr. Chair, just to interject, we do have half of the group, as Chris had said, half of the group will, their terms will expire on December 31st of this year.
Okay. And myself as chair, my term ends December 31st. Is that correct?
I do have a Dustin Zamanek expiring, his chair expiring December 31st. That's correct. I hope you don't expire, Dusty. I quite enjoy having you around.
Okay, I appreciate that compliment and that clarification. Okay, perfect. All right. Well, thank you kindly. So if we are going to ask for some more time to try to find some more members and reach out to the community and whatnot, what is can we look for another month? What can Norfolk County do to help, send out some more blasts for, hey, join your agriculture community and whatnot? Because we'll do it from our end. Is there anything that Chris or beyond that you can do from Norfolk County's end?
So one thing that I could do is I could go back like last year, the year before, look at the applications we got then, because there's some years that we get a lot of applications for agriculture and so on. And then we could reach out back to those people to say, you have applied before, The application is coming up again. Would you be interested? Because if they expressed an interest in the past, chances are they might be interested again. So we could do that from our end. And then, as Hayden said, sometimes you know the perfect person who will roll up their sleeves and get down to work and have some very good suggestions, and you might want to reach out to them as well. So from both ends, I think we will be able to get some very good, qualified, dedicated people.
Okay.
If I may too, Dusty, we may have someone that is in another board that may be finishing up their term that theoretically could be looking to switch over, because I know, as Hayden can tell you, the TDAB and the AAB, a lot of people could go back and forth on that, right?
Right. Okay. All right. Well, this is not the venue to be, asking, and we could. Time is of the essence as well. I'm not going to be asking, are you staying? Are you staying? Are you staying? But I appreciate. I'll say this broadly: is that I appreciate every one of you's participation continually through a strained year, through a busy year, and I hope to continue working with you in the future. So I'll just leave it at that, and thank you for everything everyone does, both being here today, behind the scenes, and making all the meetings, and we'll see what the future holds beyond this. Mr. Hayden.
I absolutely endorse that. Thank you very much. I endorse that too. I think it's a very good group. Hayden's hand is up. Dusty.
I want to go back to the first meeting that I was at, Dusty, where we had any nominations for chair, and nobody put their hand up. So I think I ended up saying, "Hey, I would sit in as vice chair if Dusty sat as chair." And I just wanted to say that I really appreciate you taking the lead on that and taking the position of chair. So thank you.
Well, I will say this: I have had some good help and some good people. That's this. Usually, that term seems very cliche when you hear it, and now that I've been the person in this seat, that statement could not be truer. So, thank you for that, Hayden. Thank you to everyone. I appreciate that. And okay, so that's good. Thank you, Chris, for that. Moving on, I guess item E that was added, Trish, I guess we sort of talked about the economic task force with the item A. Is there any more discussion you want to bring up other than the ask that if everyone can please see in their messages on the side, the 4 questions that the task force is currently looking for. And if you can please send those out to any other farmers that would be interested in supplying this information back. I know the farmers have also been supplying information up to the OFEGA. Apple growers have been supplying something similar. So a lot of these, it might seem a lot, but the more groups that have an understanding collectively, the better. So I do appreciate all of this understanding, because that way it is uniform understanding. So Trish, is there anything more to that point?
No, I think that's a good action to take, but I do think it would be helpful for us to discuss as a group, because sometimes, I mean, just having the discussion as a group brings out different things in people's minds. So I think that would be a good exercise to go through now, seeing as we have time. Yep.
Okay. Okay, so if everyone can look on the right-hand side of their meeting chat, Trish has supplied the 4 questions. Question 4 is describing the business's primary industry. So really the 1, 2, and 3 are the big ones to really try to get some information sending upwards to either Trish or Zvi that's also on this call at the same time. So if I could pass the microphone to you, Trish, if you want to lead this one.
Okay, so number 1 is, what specific actions or projects can the county undertake to lessen the greatest obstacles facing your industry right now? I mean, I guess we start with, what are the obstacles that we're facing right now, and then what would help with that? Hayden?
Yeah, I'm going to speak here. So the from an agricultural sector specific. So I work in the field, and then I also work in the industrial end of the business where we do the packing. Both ends of that business have its challenge with staffing right now. So I think we've talked enough that I don't need to elaborate on some of the things that can help with that, but staffing is definitely, no matter which way I look at this, is definitely our greatest challenge.
So staffing in terms of obviously the housing part, because if we don't have the housing part, we don't have the availability of the staff, but you have all local workers at the Norfolk Fruit Growers. And so are you saying that just getting staff to stay in their position or come to work, or what are the issues that are?
So not even necessarily stay in their position and come to work. We had some of those challenges at the onset of COVID-19. 40% of our workforce left us because they were concerned about the situation. We've also got a position there where the government paid them and allowed them to do that, so it made the decision very easy for them. Most of those people are back at work now. They're comfortable. We've made an environment in the workplace, but there's still additional policy related to sicknesses and illnesses. So where before somebody would have come to work with the sniffles, now we spend a lot of time administering illness within the workplace and making sure that those individuals are not potentially exposing other people to COVID-19 in the workplace.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else?
Hayden, just to follow up, Hayden, what percentage would you say you're at in terms of staffing? Are you 80%, 90% in terms of your staffing capacity?
Yeah, so we're probably around 90% of our full-time staff are back at work and functioning. On any given day, we could be down to 80%, maybe even less because of COVID-related, I guess, policy, if you want to call it. It's more so a policy thing. It's not necessarily that people are sick. It's not necessarily that we have COVID issues, but somebody now with any signs or symptoms takes it very seriously, and ourselves as an employer have to take it very seriously as well, and that affects attendance. That's the challenge at hand.
Gotcha.
I see Anita's hand up.
Oh, sorry, Anita. Didn't see that.
That's all right. And I'm just going to agree that with Hayden, that staffing has been our greatest concern as well. Not only the accommodations, which we're fortunate we have changed our business enough that we have fewer offshore workers. But government definitely didn't help us in providing students with funding this summer, because none of the students wanted to work more than $1,000 a month. And so that left us in a real pinch this summer, which meant I was working 7 days a week. And just to cover those that students weren't able to take those shifts or not willing to take those shifts. But again, that's not something that the county can help us with. These are our broader regulations, and who knows if that will occur next year, but it certainly played havoc with our business this year.
I don't think you're alone. I heard that from numerous people. Zvi?
Yes, thank you. So in addition to what we heard today about the accommodations and the quarantine, are there other human resource related solutions? So I'm hearing that current staffing levels are a challenge due to the illness or potentially people, showing some symptoms. Are there things that the county might be able to do to alleviate some of those immediate concerns?
Mike, you're on mute.
Hey there. Now this is like perhaps too broad of a solution. I'm just brainstorming here, so please take everything I say with a grain of salt. Obviously staffing's a large issue, and I'm just thinking, is there a way of understanding how many offshore are here, like say in the springtime, and then if they could be transferred to other farms? I guess like the farms program, they have a broad understanding of how many offshore are actually here at one time. I'm just wondering, to help with this, the 3-man isolation, if we could get a better understanding of like how many offshore are here, say, or brought up in the spring, and then can just be transferred. I'm already like thinking to myself, well, there's definitely key employees that I have that I would need at my operation, while there's also employees that are less key, I would say. So I just don't know if that's just another idea, if there's a way of understanding how many guys people have and how many can be transferred, and trying to work out that math, which just sounds like a monumental task to me as I say it out loud.
Yeah. So I know that farms does allow that. There is a process you need to go through to transfer, because we used to do it when we were done. We used to have offshore for tobacco, and then we would transfer them to greenhouse operations. But yes, there is no support program, as far as I'm aware, where you can go on a list and find out who needs workers. We had to kind of do the legwork initially, and then we would work with that farm every year after. But that's a good idea, Mike. I mean, maybe there's some way that the county can create a list where people can say, this is where I'm looking for workers during this time period, and others can say, you know, I could transfer my workers during this time period.
If I could, Farms does have a list.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Yes, you let them know that I have so many X and X men that are looking for work past this point. And I know that, like, because one of our crops is the layer crops. So now there is like for the Niagara on the Lake, a lot of the florals and tree nurseries, that there has been connections made through the list up at Farms.
Okay. But they don't, obviously they're not actively sharing that list.
No, it's not like it doesn't seem like it's like, whether it's because maybe they're so busy already that they're not looking to take this on. I don't think it's utilized as aggressively as maybe it could, or if something that the health unit or Norfolk County could take on for employment services. It would take more coordination, but yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, that's one option.
You got Anthony and Anita with their hands up.
Yeah. Anthony?
Yeah, hi. I could say something towards that. We explored receiving transfers this year, since I had quite a bit of difficulty getting my workers. And the issue ended up being that Service Canada now requires a whole new LMIA for transfers, just like you would do a direct arrival. So it'd be something you'd have to plan like 3 weeks out ahead of time and get a whole separate LMA approved by Service Canada to receive a transfer, even if it's from across the road.
Okay. Anita?
Thanks, Trish. I just wanted to address Svi's question about, you know, are there things that could be done? Certainly in my business, and so we operate the farm as well as the winery and retail. With those shortages of part-time or casual help in the summertime, with the government restrictions on, or government limits on how much a student could make, possibly the county could run some sort of training for part-time people so that we could bring in people and skip some of that training. Things like food handler certificates. All the restaurants would need people in the kitchens. We need it for our winery as well. Smart Serve, there's got to be some maybe forklift training or other training that if we could get some of these people, either students, provide some additional training, or some of our retirees that would like 1 day or 2 days a week. That would have helped me significantly if we could have had someone jump in that had some of this training available that I require. So across the board of Norfolk County, there's going to be a lot of different certifications that might be required. And if we could help out by bringing in groups of people that might be interested in even working a day or two. Hayden, I'm sure, you know, at the fruit growers, well, might be totally different situation, but some training that needs to be, so you can draw on groups of people that could help out for those days when you're stuck. Someone has the sniffles, you need to all of a sudden backfill. We don't have a group of people that we could draw on, because you can't just call a friend if they need some sort of certification to be in your workplace.
Yeah, excellent idea, right? You kind of like a list of workers that you can call in, like a supply list for a school, sort of, right?
And so I know that Norfolk County has helped out with things like job fairs. Yeah. But job fairs means that, you know, you're going to get a number of people, but if they're still going to be restricted, if the government runs a program where they can't work more than $1,000 a month, we still need, I don't want to be in there 7 days a week again. So we need to be able to draw on people, but things like food handlers and smart serve in our business, be great to have people trained, and then they'd be able to move around and help in a lot of the tourism related parts of agriculture.
Okay, excellent. Anyone else? What about outside of labor? I know there are particular industries that are having difficulty right now. Obviously, ginseng and tobacco are two of them. And I believe potatoes as well. Is there anything the county can do with any of that? Doesn't look like anything. Okay, so let's move on. Go ahead.
I just have.
Go ahead, Mike.
I'm just curious. I'm just thinking of current hurdles that we dealt with this year, and not that they're major ones, but perhaps there's some help that can be given to farmers. But I mean, it seems regularly we went through hand sanitizer and soap and bleach and these kinds of amenities. I'm just curious if there was any way to set up like a schedule or delivery or just something to help alleviate, those tasks that got just tacked on this year that seem to be like they're quite small ones, but I mean they add up, and just to help us stay on top of those kind of important COVID measures.
Yep. Well, small things add up. Okay. Anything else before we move on to number 2? Okay, so if the pandemic were to continue for another 1 to 2 years, what specific actions or projects could the county undertake to help businesses in your industry with the challenges associated with an extended pandemic? Anita, your hand's up, but I don't know if it's up from the last time.
I'll take it down.
Okay.
I think this is like personally is I hate to keep bringing it back, but what are an agreed upon set of rules for PPE? Our labor. Now, I don't mean when I mean the same labor is that our men were afraid of labor that don't live on the farm coming onto the farm every day, especially at the beginning when we don't know, like we're trusting our employees to be adhering to the same policies and protocols that for those that live here and don't live here. So what is what sort of outreach and extension and education services are being supplied? Like I know there's already some for COVID, wash your hands, everything on the farm, but making sure that the level playing field across all employees, not just seasonal agriculture workers. That would be one for me. So like did those educations, those, like that, it's all employees all in the same boat.
So like development of, I'm not sure I'm following you, like development of posters or just that everybody has the same rules?
Yeah, exactly. Whether everyone's either playing on the same rules, but also, educational posters. And I know that there's posters that were to be put in the bunkhouses that we all put in, but also because in our pack house we have through the CFIA, we have those posters for washing hands and PPE, but something also had agreed upon posters and program that come from Norfolk County so that everybody sees these educational pieces. And those might exist, I don't know, but that might be something that coming through that's a common education and common program for all people.
Okay. Anita?
Thanks. Dusty, you brought up a great point about our workers maybe not always feeling comfortable. And I think it would be very worthwhile for farmers that have workers here is to have conversations. So we can poll our agricultural community, but if we leave out our farm workers, our most critical part of that community, we may be missing something. So I think it would be worthwhile to have some workers interviewed. What would make them feel more comfortable? If we can provide them ways of being comfortable, maybe that's something that Norfolk could help out with as well.
That's excellent. Yeah, getting it, that'd be awesome.
And what would be the best avenue to do that? Like, are we talking about a survey or phone conversations? I mean, because logistically we have to figure out how to make that possible, right? And I know not everyone's going, a lot of them went home. What would be the best way to get that information?
Is it something that we would include? Would we look to include 2 or 3 of these people on our next Ag Advisory Board? Welcome them in. Would that be a solution?
Yeah, I think so. I'd be interested in hearing what they have to say.
Yeah, even if just they give us a bit of a rundown and say, hey, this is where we got to in our season up here. This is what we experienced, and here's what we'd like to see from an agricultural community standpoint for next season going into another run at it. I think that would add value, and reach out to the Ag Advisory Board and see who has employees that might wish to participate in that conversation.
I think it would make them feel like they matter as well, right? And that their opinion matters. Because I mean, there was a lot of that initially as well, that they felt unwelcome in the community. So I think that's, a great exercise to go through regardless.
Yeah, and this may not even be in an official AAB meeting, but I wonder if Ag Advisory Board and maybe what we could do is do an open invitation to council and have some of these seasonal agricultural workers on the call, and just put out a little bit of pretense. This is what we're asking you to participate in, and put a request out to all the council and the mayor to participate in it as well, and maybe together the broader group can help come up with some ideas on how we can involve these people, welcome them more coming into the community.
Okay, good. Anyone else have anything else on this question? Anita?
So Trish, one of the things that, if we look into another year or two, and I hate to even think about that, but certainly we need to make Norfolk County aware that we're absolutely thrilled that they mandated masks in our community. That was a great move before the province finally did. But that has to stay in effect, for the next while. It provided us so much more confidence in doing what we were doing when people are coming through our retail. There were times when staff came to me, I was working maybe sampling or whatever, and they said, I just feel so uncomfortable. There's so many people in the retail. And I had to go out there and say, people weren't observing the 2 meters. At least if someone passes by someone now, the masks are effective. So we have a great comfort level with that, but that has to stay. And same in the workplace with our workers. This has been a great move, and we just have to look at that for the next year or two until we get past this.
That's great. Great suggestion, Anita, just to reinforce that we appreciated their support in that, because yeah, it does make it a lot easier to enforce rules when you know that they're set above you as well and countywide. Okay. Question 3, can you suggest any quick win initiatives to support businesses in Norfolk? So, I mean, obviously agriculture, but if you have ideas for other industry as well in Norfolk, bring them forward.
A quick win for me, if I could butt in, is now more than ever is continuing the buy local, support local. Whether that is Norfolk County looks at, I mean, it's something like one thing, because obviously my association with the brewery would be once like at the LCBO or Norfolk County, I've seen a box that includes Northern Ontario beer and wine together. Prince Edward County currently has a beer and wine box that includes, and then you could do something very similar with sauces and apples and recipes. And these are something that can get Norfolk County marketing back on track in a very outbound way that we can control the design and framework of these marketing programs and these boxes, these recipe books, these bundles, for getting Norfolk County back on the map for when we get back on track in terms of COVID and whatnot. But also secondly is getting the camaraderie back within our county in terms of, hey, there's all of this amazing shopping. There's all this amazing artisans that exist here in Norfolk. And I know the pop-up Norfolk was a raging success, I guess, over the weekend in Port Dover. Something, and that doesn't take a lot of money. We have storefronts. Can we work with local BIAs to do these pop-ups and have these local wares and local restaurants? I mean, we're coming up into Christmas and people aren't maybe cooking the massive turkeys like they normally do. But I mean, you still want amazing food. Can local restaurants have these bundles for, like Christmas bundles that are all your amazing food, like fish tacos or poke, whatever, at home, so that the money is continually driven here in Norfolk County, and taking buy local on both levels, buying local outbound in the GTA, wherever, but also internally.
Yeah, excellent idea. So yeah, I mean, obviously some people are doing some of that right now, but yeah, I think if the county can drive that process, they're going to be able to go a lot further with it. So it's more than just putting buy local ads in. It's creating these meetings, I guess, between all the different businesses, so that we're all supporting each other. And I think if the county starts that, I think then that will continue probably well into the future, even beyond the pandemic, and be a successful thing for the county as a whole.
Yeah. Even the act of it would be almost worth its weight in gold if not a single dollar was made, right? If businesses stayed as status quo, the act that knowing that the county has your back through this and seeing these programs is sometimes just a feel-good, heartwarming moment.
Yep. Excellent. Anyone else? Okay. Well, and the last one was just please describe your business's primary industry. So, I mean, I can do that, and then we know that this is coming from agriculture. Okay, so before we move on from this, I have a list of 9 questions that I kind of looked at what the Apple board had. I hadn't seen the OFMVGA one, and then looked at, okay, what specific information do we need, because we have a bit of different rule sets here. And if I'm a person putting funding programs together, what sort of information would I want to hear? And came up with that list. So I don't know all the logistics of this yet, and I know, Chris, you did some work on this too. But if we could run these questions by the Ag Advisory Board members, and if they could let me know whether there's additional things that you think should be there, any comments on how best to put this type of survey out. Then we can kind of work on the logistics of, okay, if we put this out here, how quickly can we do it? How much time do people need to reply? And how do we get that information into a format that's going to help look for additional funding, look for funding program changes, federally, provincially, whatever. And I know that, we're here to do work for the county, but even if the county can't provide funding, they can speak on our behalf as well.
Yes, we have to continue to advocate for our local businesses, and one of the things that we do is to look for those grant funding, government funding that are available for local businesses, and ensure that we cascade them out. As a matter of fact, today I'm going to be sending out a list of some of the new grants and programs that have been announced. But I understand exactly where you're coming from, Trish. We're having a little bit of a timing issue, and so what we might have to do in terms of your survey is to kind of fast track it, so that and then roll up that information with the rest when we go to doing the wider community consultation. I think Zvi and I, we will sit down and with Brandon and say, okay, here is what is happening in terms of how the agricultural industry is different from the rest, and here is what we might have to do to ensure that we can deal with your concerns in a timely manner. But you have sent me the questions. If there are any other questions, just send them along, and then we will collate all of them. And hopefully by November at our next NSERD meeting, we can have a clearer path to how we will be dealing with it.
Okay, great. If you want help with that, Chris, just let me know.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, I think that's all I've got with this. I will send all of those questions out and the ones that we just went over to everyone. So in case you do have further things to add on those 4, get them to me by the end of the week. And then I'll also send out the specific ag questions. So if anyone has any other suggestions or concerns, please let me know.
Awesome. Thank you as always, Trish. Greatly appreciated. Thank you. Before closing that, any other questions for Trish, or any of those questions for Chris or Trish, or any of the 2 or 3 asks that we appreciate your input on? Okay, seeing none. Moving on to the Ag Advisory Board action tracking table. So a couple items would be the on-farm septic. June 20, CAO with Councillor Columbus to create a communication strategy going forward. Councillor Columbus isn't here right now. I haven't heard of anything regarding this, any updates, but I will look at that. One thing I can say for a few of these items that pertain to provincial standards and provincial bylaws, I guess that would be I'm sitting on the OMAFRA's task force to 2021 and 2020 COVID Action Response Task Force. That is the proper name of it. And this task force is a combination of 7 or 8 producers that have been asked to kind of come together and provide feedback for a plethora of topics. And the first meeting was 2 Tuesdays ago, in which we really discussed the greater picture, and then we're going to the dynamics into, I guess, the different legs of the table. The reason why I'm saying this is that on-farm septic systems is obviously a large potential upcoming hindrance if in fact we see a reduction of amount of people per sink, per toilet, and per shower coming in for a new bunkhouse plan. And that connects directly with on-farm septic, because the septic right now, we've gone over this a lot. So we're trying to really convey this message through Norfolk County, and I let Norfolk OMAFRA know that we've sent through multiple motions and passed through multiple times its discussions at Roma, and now here through OMAFRA in saying this is also needs to be an understanding of modern agriculture, and septics is a potential roadblock we can see upcoming. So I will update the Ag Advisory Board as this proceeds, and anything along the lines that pertain to any sort of issues we're having with this action tracking table that are provincially mandated. So feel free to send information through to me for this task force that OMAFRA is sending through. But believe me, I'm sending through all of these provincially stop gaps that or bottlenecks that we're experiencing. Any questions more about septic before we move on? No. Okay, road entrance permits. I see here, so on September the 23rd, we're waiting an update from Mr. Godby. Haven't heard anything from that. Jacob, if you could, may as well, we're first me waiting for Godby or Mr. Godby. I will follow up for Mr. Godby.
I think in the last meeting on that one, Dusty, I think Mike Columbus was going to, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, if anybody else remembers, Mike Columbus was going to follow up with him.
He was going to? Okay, thank you. Then I'll have a follow up with Councillor Columbus for that.
And through you, Mr. Chair, you're a busy guy at the moment. Maybe Jacob could follow up on the matter.
That'd be slick. Thank you.
Thanks, Jacob.
No problem. Happy to do it.
Any other comments for this?
Specifically, what we were looking there for is a letter confirming the spirit and intent of the bylaw versus what is actually happening. So, in some cases, multiple roadways or entranceways occur on farms, and I believe that there's a requirement there in the bylaw that there's only one per farming location at the moment. Is that correct? So basically, we were just looking for clarification and in writing on how the bylaw was going to be interpreted, along with the spirit and intent of what it was intended to do.
We're looking for an understanding, correct? And we're also looking for an understanding to almost a write-in that will state it will be dealt with on a case-by-case basis to accommodate modern agriculture, so that we are not limiting ourselves to one per farm.
Did you get all that, Jacob?
Yes, that's correct. I did. Yep.
And I believe there was a previous conversation with yourself and Mike Columbus.
That's correct.
On that matter. Yeah. So he is aware of what we're looking for.
Yeah, Godby should have this, but we'll hit him again with it. Thank you. Okay, any more comments on road entrance permits? Okay. Importing soil to Norfolk County. This does fall on my shoulders. I was to follow up with bylaw. That's a horrible time of year for a lot of reasons, so that's no excuse now. So I will see about developing this program, and it might be an interesting fitting time for this, as we might be building some bunkhouses and might be needing some topsoil. Yeah, so if and then also excess soil in general, I may look for a helper on this one, and to get this one put away. If anyone would like to offer some help on this, I'd appreciate it. If not, I don't need anybody now, but let me know if we'll get this going over the next couple of weeks. Any other comment about this? Okay. Lot relocations. County solicitor for an update. I don't know if there was a solicitor for an update. I know there's the Norfolk Cherry Co. Is going to the province on this one regarding a specific case about doing a lot swap from a 2-acre lot to a 1-acre lot and a vice versa, which will effectively bring back an extra acre, 2 acres agricultural ground, and be going into a marginal ground with a lot, which should be something that should almost be common sense no-brainer, but I know obviously legal ramifications get in the way of all of that. But yeah, so for staff, we'll contact county solicitor. Jacob, any update from the solicitor on that?
Not as of yet.
Okay, thank you kindly. So I guess the next steps would be, if we could get for our next meeting, is there an update for where the county stands on this? And they're probably going to say, well, it's up at the province right now. So I'm already foreseeing that, but at least we'll have it on the for October 27th meeting, please. The new council primer. So primer, obviously, we already talked about, but I'm going to be going to the Board of Health per your voting and discretion here today to discuss the 3 motions. So, I mean, I want to keep this item on there, but at least we're getting in front of the Board of Health, which is comprised of many of the councillors at least. So at least they'll be on their ears. Norfolk County Road 45 Bridge, the Bailey Bridge. The CAO provided an update that he was looking for, confirm this with Councillor Columbus, that we, bless you, we were confirmed what a modern agricultural implement is to be dealing with this bridge. We're looking for a bridge to maintain its 1 lane, I guess where it stands right now with the 1 lane, and also what is the width of the bridge, including shoulders, while maintaining a single lane, is somewhere between 23 to 30 feet. 30 feet being the largest of implements to handle the width of a bridge. And where we seem to be in a back and forth right now is my understanding, per emails with Jason Burgess, is we seem to be in a standoff between the province and the county ourselves as to determining where is the actual legal block with the causing the inability to move forward. It is the county's understanding that is the province that is causing the holdup, and it is the province that is stating that it is some sort of the county protocols with a holdup. But they're trying to get that cleared up. I don't know at this point if there's any money still allocated for this bridge, because I believe a lot of it has been spent already on engineering drawings. And I don't know what it's going to look like in the future, but we're going to continue to push on this per the CAO and whatnot, to seeing can we please at least get moving forward, because selfishly, I guess this would be a conflict of interest, but this bridge is causing myself and my farming operation issues as it stands right now, as I'm sure other farmers in the area, and let alone just normal traffic. Any other comments on the Bailey Bridge? Okay. The tree bylaw on September 23rd has yet to appear before council. It's being worked on by staff and community services. Mr. Robinson, is there any update on this?
It has not. I double checked, and it has not been before council as of yet this year.
Okay. When is the next council meeting? Is it today? Is there one today?
Yes, today.
Okay.
Today will be a short one, so they'll start with the regular rotation as of next month.
Okay. Is there any way that we can get this to be on? I mean, I realize that today's would be too short notice, but when we get in the regular rotation, by getting this on the next agenda, or at least trying to.
I will ask Andy and see if there's plans. Obviously, COVID backed up a ton of stuff, so sorry, we may just need to wait it out. It'll just all depend on what they've got coming down the pike here.
Okay. Any other comments on this? Okay. All right, and then the last being the Climate Change Committee. I haven't seen any of their agendas, I guess. But Jacob, if you can please continue to send our meetings agendas and minutes to them, that would be greatly appreciated. Are there any other tracking notes that after today's meetings we would like to add now to this table?
Just one from last week there, Dusty. We've done that question and answers thing with the health unit. I haven't seen a response come back from that. I think we should add that on. You did follow up with Marlene. I'll do some more follow up with her and see where she's at with it.
Okay. Yeah. So that'd be fantastic.
I was just going to say, I think it's
Jacob,
important to get that out to farmers because I know I had some calls, people asking questions, and at least they get some answers.
right. So the Ag Advisory Board, that was the questionnaire that was headed by Trish and Hayden, and that this was for this information has been forwarded on to the health unit, Jacob, and nicely put together, crossed, I guess, crossed, not examined, but really piece and parcel together to straight line all of the questions and answers that Mr. Dooney put together. We're looking for effectively the health unit to use this information as they provided the answers to us, to please get the answers that were not from the Ag Advisory Board. These questions and concerns were from the agricultural stakeholders that we put together through. So if the health unit has any update for sending out these responses out.
And on the same note, Mr. Chair, I think what we had decided is that when it's finalized and all the answers are provided, that I would have sent it out to the wider community through the same forum that I have been sending it out. Was that the agreement?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, and I think the rest of us would send it out as well to our email list.
Yeah.
If we have them.
So as soon as it's finished, you just let me know and I can cascade it to my list and then everybody else can send it to their list.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
I'm really aiming that the health unit would put this on their letterhead and then put it in the format such that that Hayden put it in, so it is easy to understand, to have the concerns straightforward for the plethora of the concerns right now going forward. So that's a good one. Anything else right now? Okay. Let me flip back to my agenda over here. Okay, so other business, any other business arising right now? I've already said that I'm on this task force and I'm very honored to be on it. And any updates that I can offer from AMAFRA coming downwards, that is more than just simple hearsay. I'll update the board as it comes through. That's all that I have right now. Oh, and then secondly, just so everyone's aware, and the recording audience, is that the Trinidad government is providing and proving to be quite difficult right now, bringing their men and women back home. We're being told to prepare for potentially to get ready to keep your men and women till maybe Christmas. So we're in a bit of an interesting spot because we have, per the temporary farm worker program and the LEMA and whatnot and the contract, that you are required to provide them 40 hours a week average throughout their entire duration of their contract. There's a bit of an issue, obviously, is that farms tend to really get quiet and not need these large amount of people right now for them to go home. And there's a bit of an issue as to when is the official contract done if the men aren't able to repatriate back home. And does this mean that we as an employer are required to continue to pay these people as they're on our farms with very little work to do, as it obviously gets cold outside? And we're not able to book charter flights. That's not an option outside, above and beyond CanAg. And we are being told to not ask any more questions. Not like they're not getting mad, but they're saying do not respond until at least early November, because we don't know anything. So it's a very scary time. And by scary, I mean continue the unknowns with Trinidad. Those who have St. Vincent men flying home, looking for up to, they're allowing a 5-day test to be considered allowable for the men to fly home and men and women to fly home, whereas Trinidad was whenever we get a flight is a 3-day. Now the other thing is when you're booking your flights for your men and women flying back home, I did receive a response from Marlene regarding this was from a meeting 2 meetings ago, and about booking mass testing and the need for mass testing, because right now the standard is such that how testing has changed. If anybody's gotten tested lately, you must be showing symptoms. Well, obviously these men at this time just need this for their check off to be returning back home. The local assessment centers, Norfolk General Hospital, WHGH, and WMH. I'm not too high on that. Are prepared to ensure timely testing to support the workers back home. Please call the centers to book your appointments as soon as you're aware of the flight dates, and advise the centers that the tests are for the workers to return home. They will flag the tests from the labs. However, that does not guarantee the results within the 3 to 5 day window. So for all producers and agricultural employers of seasonal agriculture, please let the centers know that these are for people that are destined for home, with a time frame for this test to be done in such a manner. As well, let the health unit know, and they will flag it from their side. That way there aren't any holdups, or I try to minimize them. That's what I can say on that one. That's my 2 big updates, trying to get these guys home. Mr. Hayden.
Yeah, that information hasn't gone out through any bulletins that I've seen for the health unit. So it'd be nice maybe if we could ask Marlene if that could be sent out to their health unit list.
Okay.
Maybe that's something we could put through the clerk's office again. Jacob?
No problem.
Any other business arising?
Yeah, just one more comment. I had 11 guys go back to Jamaica yesterday. Everything was smooth. The only complaint for them was that they got held up at the airport on arriving, so 4 to 5 hour waits being received back into the country, and they were tired by the time they got home.
Yeah. Trinidad is administering a $1,200 Canadian per man forced federal quarantine upon arrival. So whenever we can get through this, it's our understanding that they will have to pay for $1,200 per man for a federal quarantine in a federal hotel. So we won't get into this because that's just astronomical. So I hope that does not get put into place. Anyways, okay. So thank you for that, Hayden. I'm glad you guys got home. That's good. Anything else? Okay. If I can get a call for adjournment.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay. I see Trish and Hayden. Perfect. Thank you kindly. And our next schedule, our next meeting, I apologize. Well, we're going to be having some responses back very soon from the Board of Health for these 3 motions. We had a meeting on the 8th, and now we had one now. So that's a 3-week gap of time. What about another 3 weeks? We had another meeting because I believe I would probably have another OMAFRA update. I'm hoping that the health unit sends out the list of responses back then, so maybe we'll get some understanding from them. We'll also have an understanding from the county and the health unit in regards to our current stance on the hotel plan, as well as the user fee 2021. I'm going to be slightly Dutch on this one, and week 1, 2, so either week 46 or week 47. Week 47 is November 16th through the 20th. what is everyone's,
I'm completely booked. I have multiple things going on that week except for Friday. I can do Friday. Sorry.
for the 20th? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's okay. That's A. So the 20th gives a month. What do you think,
Yeah,
Aiden?
sorry, that was the 16th through to the 20th.
Yes, sir.
I'm out for that week. I got to go to out of province.
Okay, that's fair. So then let's pull back. Right now, let's have a tentative, what's everybody's availability, week 46, November 9th through the 13th.
I can do the Monday or the Friday.
Okay, I'm available the Monday, or I don't want to, but if we tentatively go for the 9th or somewhere between week 48, or what is everyone weeks 48? That's 23rd through the 27th.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday's best for me.
Okay,
Well, so far we got 3 of us for the 23rd on the Monday.
sounds good. If we could, Mr. Robinson, have a doodle poll for the 23rd and 24th and 25th. That way, there's 3 options there, and it's we can work with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Does that work for everyone? And then we know we have 3 votes for the 23rd already. But at least we can roll with that. Does that
Sorry,
sound good,
Dusty,
Jacob?
did you want a morning or
Yeah.
business hours? Okay.
Yeah, morning, please. Now, I know that Mr. Hill is unable to attend in mornings because he's a teacher. So if you could also offer an evening meeting, I'm not opposed. That way we can maybe capture the group that way to offering it up as an option.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yes, just one more thing, Jake. I did send those motions and I corrected them in the Word document that I sent. And then Dusty, you would have to send the motion that you had there, Jacob, because I'm sure he couldn't capture it all.
Yeah, I saw that. So
and then Jacob would leave you with the motion. It was pretty basic for Dusty to attend the Board of Health meeting tonight.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. That was jam-packed, but it was efficient, and I appreciate everyone here. Have a great day, and updates to come after today's Board of Health meeting.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jacob, for taking those additional notes and stuff.
No problem at all. That's
Have a great day.
for.
Bye-bye.